The stage lights burned hotter than the sun. Or so it felt to Eli as he stood frozen, mid-vow, staring into the eyes of his co-star, Lila, her perfect smile, framed by cascading blonde curls, was a lie he'd memorized better than his lines. He wanted to scream, to tear the script apart, because every word of this fake wedding scene felt like a betrayal of the truth beating in his chest. It wasn't Lila's fault. She was kind, professional, a Broadway darling who hit every mark with grace. But Eli's heart didn't race for her. It raced for the shadow moving silently behind the curtain, the one adjusting the lights with a steady hand. Finn, the stage manager who'd been there through every rehearsal, every missed cue, every night Eli nearly broke under the weight of pretending. They were in their third month of Love's Last Waltz, a romantic drama packing the house at the Majestic Theater in New York. Eli played James, the dashing groom. Lila played Clara, his bride. The audience ate it up, gasping at their chemistry, oblivious to the fact that Eli's real chemistry was with the guy in the black hoodie who never stepped into the spotlight. Finn, 25, with his quiet intensity and sharp wit, was the gravity holding Eli's chaotic world together. And Eli was falling, hard, despite the world telling him he shouldn't. James, do you take Clara to be your lawfully wedded wife? The officiant's voice boomed, snapping Eli back. He choked out his line. I do. But his eyes flicked to the wings, where Finn stood, clipboard in hand, watching, always watching. Eli's pulse thundered. He didn't want to marry Clara. He didn't want to kiss Lila under these lights. He wanted Finn real, awkward, brilliant Finn, who'd once laughed so hard at Eli's terrible improv that he'd spilled coffee all over the soundboard. Backstage, after the curtain fell, Eli found Finn coiling cables, his movements precise, almost meditative. The crew bustled around them, but the world narrowed to just the two of them. Good show tonight, Finn said, not looking up, his voice steady but warm. Eli leaned against a prop table, searching for words. Yeah, except I'm starting to hate that wedding scene, he muttered. Finn's hands paused, just for a second, before he chuckled. You're selling it, though. Audience was crying. Eli's throat tightened. I'm not selling it to them. I'm losing it to you. The tension had been building for weeks. It started with late-night talks after rehearsals, when the theater emptied out and it was just them, sharing cold pizza and stories. Finn's life was a mosaic of small-town roots and big-city dreams. Grown up in Ohio, son of a mechanic and a nurse, always the kid who fixed things, who made things work. Eli, a New Yorker born and bred, was all impulse and fire, chasing roles to outrun a childhood of being told he wasn't enough. Their differences clicked like puzzle pieces, but Eli's fear kept the last piece from falling into place. He was gay. He'd known it since he was 12, sneaking glances at the boys in gym class while pretending to care about the girls. But Broadway wasn't always kind to out actors, and his agent's voice echoed in his head. Keep it quiet, Eli. You're the leading man. Play the part. So he did, smiling for the cameras, dodging questions about his love life, and acting opposite Lila while his heart screamed for Finn. Finn, who was openly queer, who wore his truth like armor, who made Eli want to be brave. That night, as they locked up the theater, Finn brushed past Eli, their shoulders grazing. It was electric, a spark that made Eli's breath catch. You okay? Finn asked, his green eyes searching Eli's face. Eli wanted to say everything. I am not okay. I'm in love with you, and I'm drowning in this fake world. But he just nodded, muttering, Long day. Finn gave him a small, knowing smile, like he saw through the lie but wouldn't push. Not yet. The next rehearsal was brutal. The director, Marianne, a sharp-tongued veteran, called for the wedding scene again and again. Eli, more passion. She barked. You're marrying the love of your life. Eli's jaw clenched. He kissed Lila, nailed the lines, but his mind was on Finn, who was adjusting a spotlight above the stage. When Finn climbed down the ladder, their eyes met, and Eli swore he saw something flicker in Finn's gaze, something that wasn't just professional courtesy. After rehearsal, Eli lingered, pretending to study his script. Finn was last to leave, as always, checking the stage one more time. You're gonna wear that script out, Finn teased, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Eli laughed, but it was shaky. Finn, you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? The question hung heavy in the empty theater. Finn's expression softened, and he stepped closer, close enough that Eli could smell the faint cedar of his cologne. All the time, Finn said quietly, but sometimes, you just gotta rewrite the script. Eli's heart pounded. He wanted to close the gap, to tell Finn everything. But the weight of his career, his fears, and the world's expectations held him back. He let Finn walk away, the stage lights dimming behind them, leaving Eli alone with the truth he wasn't ready to face. The next week was a blur of performances, each one chipping away at Eli's resolve. The wedding scene became a nightly torture, a mirror reflecting what he couldn't have. Lila's hand in his, her practiced smile. The audience's applausite was all a cruel reminder of the life he was supposed to want. But every night, his eyes sought Finn in the shadows, catching the way Finn's lips quirked when Eli flubbed a line or the way his hands moved with quiet confidence, keeping the show alive. Offstage, their connection grew in stolen moments. A shared glance during a chaotic tech rehearsal. A late-night coffee run when Finn admitted he'd never seen the city from the Empire State Building. Eli dragged him there at 2 a.m. The city glittering below, their laughter echoing in the empty observation deck. Your trouble, Finn said, his voice soft, his eyes lingering on Eli's face. Eli wanted to say, You're my kind of trouble, but the words caught in his throat. The tension wasn't just in Eli's head. The crew noticed, whispering about how Eli lit up when Finn was around. Lila, ever perceptive, pulled Eli aside one night. You're distracted, she said, not unkindly. Everything okay? Eli forced a smile. Just tired. She didn't push, but her knowing look made him wonder how much she'd guessed. The breaking point came during a Saturday matinee. The wedding scene was flawless too flawless. The audience roared, but Eli felt hollow. As he kissed Lila, he saw Finn in the wings, his face unreadable. The second the curtain fell, Eli stormed backstage, his chest tight. Finn was there, checking props, oblivious to the storm brewing in Eli's heart. You good? Finn asked, glancing up. Eli snapped. No, I'm not. I can't keep doing this. Finn's brow furrowed. The show. Eli shook his head, voice low. Pretending. Finn set down his clipboard, stepping closer. Talk to me, Eli. The air crackled between them. Eli's hands shook as he said, I don't want to marry her on stage. I don't want to keep acting like I'm someone I'm not. Finn's eyes widened, but he didn't back away. Then who are you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Eli's breath hitched. He was so close to saying it, I am the guy who's in love with you, but fear clamped down. And he muttered, I don't know. The moment broke when Marian called for notes. Finn stepped back, his expression guarded, and Eli cursed himself for chickening out. That night, he couldn't sleep, replaying Finn's question. Who are you? He was Eli Harper, Broadway's golden boy, but also Eli, the guy who'd spent years hiding his truth to fit a mold that was cracking under the weight of his feelings for Finn. The next day, Finn was quieter than usual, focused on his work. Eli tried to catch his eye, but Finn kept his distance, professional as ever. It stung, but Eli couldn't blame him. He'd left Finn hanging, too scared to leap. During a break, Eli found Finn alone in the prop room, surrounded by fake flowers and cardboard cutouts. I didn't mean to shut you out, Eli said, his voice raw. Finn looked up, his gaze steady. You didn't. But you're fighting something, Eli. And I can't fight it for you. Eli's chest ached. He wanted to tell Finn everything, how he'd grown up in a house where normal meant straight, how his dad had called his dreams of acting soft, how he'd clawed his way to Broadway only to feel like a fraud. But Finn deserved more than excuses. He deserved truth. I'm scared, Eli admitted, his voice breaking. Of what this means. Of what I'd lose. Finn's expression softened, and he stepped closer, his hand brushing Eli's arm. You're not losing me, he said quietly. But you gotta figure out what you're keeping. The words hit like a spotlight, illuminating everything Eli had been avoiding. He wanted Finn not just in stolen moments, but in every moment. But the world outside the theater wasn't as forgiving as Finn's eyes. Eli left the prop room with his heart in knots, knowing he couldn't keep running from himself. Eli's world tilted on its axis after that night. Finn's words, you gotta figure out what you're keeping, echoed in his head. A challenge he couldn't ignore. He threw himself into performances. But each night on stage felt like a lie he was telling himself. The audience saw James and Clara, but Eli saw Finn. Always there, steady as a heartbeat, keeping the show alive while Eli's heart broke under the spotlight. The next week, a curveball hit. Marianne announced a promotional event, a staged wedding photo shoot with Eli and Lila, to be plastered across billboards and social media. The idea made Eli's stomach churn. He could barely handle the wedding scene. Now he had to sell the lie in HD. Worse, the shoot was scheduled at a rooftop venue with Finn overseeing the tech setup. Eli would have to fake love for Lila while Finn watched. His quiet presence a reminder of everything Eli wanted but couldn't claim. The day of the shoot was crisp, the New York skyline glittering under a September sun. Eli stood in a tailored tux, Lila radiant in a white gown. The photographer barked orders, and Eli played his part, smiling, holding Lila's hand, leaning in for a staged kiss. But his eyes kept drifting to Finn, who was adjusting a lighting rig, his sleeves rolled up, his focus unbreakable. Every time their gazes met, Eli felt a jolt, like the city's pulse was syncing with his own. During a break, Eli found Finn by the catering table, sipping coffee. "You look like you're hating this as much as I am," Eli said, trying to keep his tone light. Finn raised an eyebrow, a half-smile tugging at his lips. "You're the one in the tux, not me." Eli laughed, but it was strained. "Yeah, well, I'd rather be in your hoodie, doing your job." Finn's smile faded, his eyes searching Eli's face. "Careful what you wish for," he said softly. "My job's not as glamorous as yours." Eli wanted to scream that glamour didn't matter, that he'd trade it all for one real moment with Finn. But the photographer called him back, and the moment slipped away. The rest of the shoot was torture, each pose a reminder of the life he was supposed to want. When it was over, Eli lingered on the rooftop, watching Finn pack up. The city hummed below, but all Eli heard was his own heartbeat, loud and insistent. That night, Eli made a decision. He couldn't keep living half a life. He found Finn at the theater, alone in the lighting booth, calibrating the board. The air was thick with the scent of dust and old wood. The theater's heartbeat quiet but alive. "Finn," Eli said, his voice trembling. "I need to tell you something." Finn turned, his expression unreadable but open, like he'd been waiting for this. Eli took a breath, his hands shaking. "I'm done pretending. I'm gay. And I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. Finn's eyes widened, but he didn't speak, didn't move. Eli's heart sank, fear creeping in. Had he misread everything? But then Finn stepped forward, closing the distance, his hand brushing Eli's cheek. "Took you long enough," Finn whispered, his voice thick with emotion. And then he kissed Eli, soft at first, then fierce, like they'd both been holding their breath for months. The kiss was everything the stage kisses weren't real. Messy, electric. Eli's hands found Finn's waist, pulling him closer, the world fading until it was just them. Two hearts finally honest. When they pulled apart, Finn's eyes were bright, his smile shaky but real. "You sure about this?" he asked. Eli nodded, his throat tight. "I've never been surer of anything." But the high didn't last. The next morning, Eli woke to a text from his agent. "Photo shoot pics are viral. You and Lila are the internet's favorite couple. Keep it up." The words were a punch to the gut. The world saw him as Lila's perfect groom. And coming out now could unravel everything: his career, his reputation, the fragile hope he'd just found with Finn. He stared at the message, dread pooling in his chest, knowing the real fight was just beginning. Eli's confession changed everything and nothing. The kiss with Finn lingered like a melody he couldn't shake. But the world outside the lighting booth didn't care about his truth. Social media buzzed with Eli-Lila wedding, fans gushing over the photo shoot, oblivious to the storm inside him. Every like, every comment, felt like a chain pulling him back to the lie he'd spent years perfecting. Finn, though, was a lifeline. They stole moments between rehearsals, quiet talks in the prop room, hands brushing as they passed in the wings. Finn's presence was steady, grounding, but his eyes held a question: what now? Eli didn't have an answer. Coming out meant risking his career, his family's approval, everything he'd built. But staying silent meant losing Finn, and that was a price he couldn't pay. The next performance was a disaster. Eli stumbled through the wedding scene, his mind on Finn's lips, not Lila's. Marion noticed, pulling him aside after the show. "What's going on? Eli, you're off." He wanted to tell her, to spill everything, but the words stuck. Just stress. He lied. She didn't buy it. Her eyes narrowing. Fix it. The show's counting on you. The weight of her words crushed him. The show. The audience. The expectations, they all demanded James. Not Eli. Finn was waiting in the alley behind the theater, his breath visible in the chilly night air. "You look like you're carrying the world," he said, handing Eli a coffee. Eli took it, their fingers brushing, sparking warmth in the cold. "I told you I'm in love with you," Eli said, his voice low. "But I don't know how to do this. The world's not ready for me to be me." Finn's jaw tightened, but his voice was soft. "The world's never ready. You just decide when you are." Eli wanted to be ready. He saw it in Finn's eyes, the hope, the patience, the quiet strength that made Eli feel safe. But fear was a powerful thing, and it whispered of rejection, of empty theaters, of his father's voice calling him a failure. They walked in silence, the city's noise a dull roar around them. At Finn's apartment, a small walk-up in Brooklyn, they sat on the fire escape, the skyline a distant glow. Finn spoke first, his voice steady. "I came out at 19. My dad didn't speak to me for a year. But I'd do it again, because hiding who I am was killing me." Eli's throat tightened. "What if I lose everything?" Finn reached for his hand, his grip firm. "You won't lose me." The words were a promise, but they didn't erase the dread. Eli leaned into Finn, their shoulders pressed together, and for a moment, the world felt bearable. The next day, Eli's agent called, ecstatic about a potential movie deal tied to Love's Last Waltz. "They love the chemistry with Lila," she said. "This could be your big break." Eli's stomach dropped. The deal hinged on him playing the straight leading man, on keeping the Eli-Lila fantasy alive. He hung up, his hands shaking, and found Finn backstage, fixing a jammed curtain track. "They want me for a movie," Eli said, his voice hollow. Finn looked up, his eyes sharp. "That's huge. But what's it costing you?" Eli didn't answer. He couldn't. The choice was tearing him apart, his career or his truth, the spotlight or Finn. That night, during the wedding scene, he nearly broke. Lila's hand in his felt wrong, her smile a reminder of the lie he was living. As the curtain fell, he saw Finn in the wings, watching, and the ache in his chest became unbearable. He couldn't keep doing this, not to Finn, not to himself. After the show, Eli found Finn in the empty theater, sitting on the stage's edge. "I can't keep pretending," Eli said, his voice raw. Finn looked at him, his expression soft but resolute. "Then don't. Be you, Eli. The real you." Eli sat beside him, their knees touching, and for the first time, he felt like he could breathe. But the world was waiting, and the choice loomed larger than ever. The theater became a battlefield, each performance a clash between Eli's heart and his fear. Finn's words, "Be you, Eli," were a beacon, but the path to them was littered with doubts. The movie deal loomed, A glittering temptation that came with strings. Stay in the closet. Keep the Eli-Lila dream alive. And smile for the cameras. Eli wanted to burn the script. But the weight of his career, his family, his future, kept him tethered. Finn was different now, too. He didn't push, but there was a quiet distance in his eyes, like he was bracing for Eli to choose the safe path. They still shared moments late-night talks. Stolen glances, but the unspoken question hung between them. Will you choose me? Eli hated himself for hesitating, for letting fear win. But the thought of losing Finn was worse than any spotlight. A week later, the cast was invited to a gala, a glitzy event to promote the show. Eli and Lila were expected to play the perfect couple, posing for photos, charming the press. Eli dreaded it, but Finn was there, handling the tech setup, his presence a quiet anchor. At the gala, Eli stood in a sea of flashing cameras. Lila's arm looped through his, her laughter bright, but his eyes kept finding Finn, who was adjusting a microphone stand, his focus unwavering. Every fake smile Eli gave felt like a betrayal. During a quiet moment, Eli slipped away, finding Finn backstage. I hate this, Eli muttered, loosening his tie. Finn looked at him, his expression soft but guarded. You don't have to do it. You know. You can walk away. Eli laughed bitterly. And what? Throw away my career. My life. Finn's jaw tightened. Is it your life if you're living it for everyone else? The words cut deep. Eli wanted to argue, to say Finn didn't understand the pressure. But he knew Finn was right. He'd spent years playing a Rolson star, straight man, and it was killing him. Finn stepped closer, his voice low. I'm not asking you to choose me over everything. I'm asking you to choose yourself. Eli's chest ached. He reached for Finn's hand, their fingers intertwining. And for a moment, the gala's noise faded. But the moment shattered when a reporter spotted them, her camera flashing before Eli could pull away. The next morning, a grainy photo hit the tabloids. Broadway's golden boy caught in backstage romance. The headline was vague, but the implications were clear. Eli's phone exploded with texts from his agent, his publicist, his parents. Call me now, his agent demanded. Panic clawed at him, but Finn was calm, his hand steady on Eli's shoulder. Breathe, Finn said. We'll figure this out. Eli didn't want to figure it out. He wanted to run. But Finn's presence kept him grounded. Even as the world spun out of control. They met at Finn's apartment, away from the theater's chaos. Finn made tea, his movements calm, deliberate. What do you want, Eli? He asked, his voice gentle but firm. Eli stared at the steam rising from his mug, his hands shaking. I want you, but I'm terrified of what it means. Finn sat beside him, their knees touching. I know. I was terrified, too, when I came out. But the other side's worth it. Being real, it's worth it. Eli looked at him, Finn's green eyes steady, and felt something shift. He wasn't alone in this. For the first time, he believed he could face the storm, as long as Finn was there. The next performance was electric. Eli poured everything into the wedding scene, his fear, his longing, his truth. The audience felt it, their applause thunderous. Lila caught his eye after, her smile knowing. "You're different tonight," she said. "It's good." Eli nodded, his heart racing. He found Finn in the wings, his clipboard forgotten, his eyes bright. "You were incredible," Finn said, and Eli grinned, feeling lighter than he had in months. He was ready to fight for himself, for Finn, for the truth. The tabloid photo was a spark in a powder keg. Eli's agent called it a PR nightmare, demanding he issue a statement denying any romance with Finn. "You're the leading man," she said. "People want you with Lila, not some stagehand." Eli's blood boiled at the word stagehand, but he stayed silent, his mind racing. Denying Finn felt like denying himself. But the alternative coming out meant facing a world that wasn't ready for his truth. Finn was a rock, even as the gossip swirled. They met in secret, away from the theater, in quiet corners of the Sitya Diner in Queens, a park bench in Central Park. Finn didn't push, but his silence was heavy, his eyes asking what Eli wasn't ready to answer. "I'm here," Finn said one night, their hands linked under a table. "But you need to decide what you're fighting for." Eli nodded, his throat tight. He wanted to be brave, but bravery felt like stepping off a cliff. The pressure mounted. His parents called, their voices laced with concern. "We saw the article," his mom said. "Is it true?" Eli dodged the question, his chest aching. His dad's silence on the call was louder than words. At rehearsals, the crew whispered, and Lila's glances were softer, like she knew more than she let on. Even Marian seemed to sense the shift, her notes sharper, her patience thin. "Focus, Eli," she snapped during a run-through. "You're not here." He wasn't. His heart was with Finn, replaying their kiss, their talks. The way Finn's laugh made the world feel right. But the world wasn't right. Social media was a battlefield. Fans split between those who shipped Eli Lila and those speculating about the mystery man. Eli's agent pushed for damage control, a public date with Lila, a red carpet appearance to sell the lie. Eli refused, his voice shaking. "I'm done lying," he said. His agent's silence was deafening. That night, Eli found Finn in the theater's basement, sorting cables. The air was thick with dust and tension. "I told my agent no," Eli said, his voice low. Finn looked up, his expression guarded. "No to what?" Eli stepped closer, his hands shaking. "No to pretending I'm someone I'm not. I want to be with you, out in the open." Finn's eyes softened, but there was caution there. "Too. You sure? This could cost you everything." Eli nodded, his heart pounding. "You're worth it." Finn's smile was small but real, and he pulled Eli into a hug, their foreheads touching. "Okay," Finn whispered. "We'll do this together." The promise was a lifeline, but the fear didn't vanish. Eli knew the road ahead was brutal, his career, his family, the world's judgment, but Finn's arms around him made it feel possible. The next day, Eli met with Marianne. He told her everything, his feelings for Finn, his fear, his decision to come out. She listened, her face unreadable, then leaned back. "You're a damn good actor, Eli. But you're a better man when you're honest." She promised to support him, but warned, "The industry's not kind to this. You ready for the fight?" Eli nodded, his resolve hardening. That night, Eli took the stage with a new fire. The wedding scene felt different, not a lie, but a performance infused with his truth. The audience felt it, their applause louder than ever. Finn watched from the wings, his smile proud, and Eli knew he'd made the right choice. But the real test was Kaminga press conference to address the rumors, to tell the world who he really was. As he left the stage, Finn squeezed his hand. A silent "I've got you." Eli held on, ready to face whatever came next. The press conference was a crucible. Eli stood at the podium, cameras flashing, reporters' eyes sharp with hunger. His agent had begged him to reconsider, to spin the narrative. But Eli was done with half-truths. Finn stood backstage, out of sight but close enough to feel like a heartbeat. Eli took a breath, his hands steady despite the storm in his chest. "I'm here to set the record straight," he began, his voice clear. "The rumors about me and Lila aren't true. I'm not in love with her. I'm in love with someone else, a man. His name is Finn, and he's the best person I know." The room erupted, questions flying. But Eli kept going. "I've spent years pretending to be someone I'm not, because I was scared. I'm done being scared. I'm gay, and I'm proud of who I am." The fallout was immediate. Social media exploded, some fans cheering, others turning vicious. His agent called it a career suicide. But Eli felt alive, like he'd shed a skin that never fit. Finn was waiting when he stepped off the podium, his eyes bright with pride. "You did it," Finn said, pulling him into a hug. Eli buried his face in Finn's shoulder, the world's noise fading. "We did it," he corrected. The theater became a sanctuary. Marianne rallied the crew, who closed ranks around Eli and Finn, their support a quiet strength. Lila was a surprise ally, posting a heartfelt message online. Eli's truth doesn't change his talent or his heart. Proud to call him a friend. The show went on, each performance electric. Eli's honesty bleeding into his role. The audience felt it, their applause a roar that drowned out the hate. But not everyone was kind. Eli's parents called, their voices strained. "We need time," his mom said. His dad's silence was louder than ever. Eli's heart ached. But Finn was there, his hand in Eli's, his presence a reminder that family wasn't just blood. They spent nights in Finn's apartment, cooking terrible meals, laughing, kissing, building a life that felt real. Finn opened up about his own struggles, his dad's rejection, his mom's slow acceptance, and Eli saw the strength it took to live authentically. The movie deal fell through, as Eli knew it would. His agent warned of lean years ahead. But opportunities came, smaller roles, indie projects, directors who valued his truth. Eli didn't care about the spotlight anymore. He cared about Finn, about the life they were building. One night, on Finn's fire escape, Eli said, "I'd rather marry you than act another fake wedding scene." Finn laughed, his eyes soft. "Careful. I might hold you to that." The show's final performance loomed, a bittersweet milestone. Eli poured everything into it, his love for Finn fueling every line. As the curtain fell, the cast took their bows. But Eli's eyes were on Finn, who stood in the wings, clapping, his smile brighter than the stage lights. After, they lingered in the empty theater, the stage their own. "This is where it started," Eli said, his voice thick. Finn nodded, his hand finding Eli's. "And it's just the beginning." The final performance of Love's Last Waltz was a triumph. But for Eli, it was more than a show, it was a declaration. The wedding scene, once a torture, became a catharsis, his truth woven into every word. As he said, "I do" to Lila's Clara, he looked at Finn in the wings. His heart sang those words to him. The audience roared, unaware of the real story unfolding in Eli's chest. After the curtain fell, the cast and crew gathered for a wrap party, the theater alive with laughter and champagne. Eli and Finn slipped away, climbing to the theater's roof. The city sprawling below. The air was cool, the stars faint against the city's glow. Finn leaned against the ledge, his hoodie soft under Eli's hand. "You were incredible tonight," Finn said, his voice warm. Eli grinned, his heart full. "Only because you were there." They talked for hours. About the future. About dreams. Eli wanted to keep acting, but on his terms, roles that didn't demand he hide. Finn dreamed of directing, of telling stories that mattered. They planned a trip to Ohio, to face Finn's family, to build bridges Eli's own parents weren't ready to cross. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. The next morning, Eli woke in Finn's apartment, sunlight streaming through the window. Finn was making coffee, humming off-key, and Eli felt a peace he'd never known. He'd lost things, his parents' approval, the movie deal, the safety of the closet, but he'd gained more. He'd gained himself, and Finn, and a life that felt like his own. Months later, Eli landed a role in an indie film, a queer love story directed by a visionary who saw his truth as a strength. Finn was there, always, handling the tech, cheering him on. One night, after a long shoot, Eli pulled Finn to a quiet park. The city's hum a soft backdrop. He dropped to one knee, his hands shaking, a simple ring in his palm. "I meant it," he said, his voice thick. "I'd rather marry you than act another fake wedding scene. So, Finn, will you?" Finn's laugh was bright, his eyes wet. "You're such a drama queen," he said, pulling Eli up into a kiss. "Yes." The ring slid onto Finn's finger, a promise as real as their love. The world wasn't perfect, there were still battles. Still hate, but they faced it together. Two hearts beating under the same spotlight. Years later, Eli would look back on that theater, that stage, that moment when Finn's hand brushed his and everything changed. He'd think of the wedding scenes he'd never have to fake again, because the only one that mattered was the one he'd live with Finn. Messy and real and theirs. And he'd know, without a doubt, that choosing himself, choosing Finn, was the role of a lifetime.